The drive to the Stirling estate in Scotland was done in total silence. The atmosphere inside the private jet, and later the luxury SUV, was thick with unspoken tension. Julian had his eyes glued to his laptop, reviewing financial files, while Clara stared out the window at the rolling green hills, her stomach churning with every mile. They were entering enemy territory. Arthur Stirling's estate was a colossal 18th century castle surrounded by mist-shrouded moors. It looked beautiful, but to Clara, it felt like a trap. The SUV stopped in front of the stone courtyard. The moment the doors opened, Julian's demeanor changed instantly. The cold, distant businessman vanished, replaced by the attentive, deeply in love fiancé. He stepped out first, turned around, and offered Clara his hand, helping her down with a warmth that felt frighteningly real. "Smile, darling," Julian whispered near her ear, his breath warm against her skin. The cameras might not be here, but Arthur's staff sees everything. Clara put on her best rehearsed smile and slipped her hand into his. "I hope you're as good an actor as you think you are, Julian." "I don't play to lose, Clara," he murmured back as they walked up the grand steps. The massive wooden doors opened, and they were greeted by Arthur Stirling himself, alongside several older men and women, the core board members of the Stirling Group. "Julian, Clara, welcome," Arthur boomed, leaning on his silver-headed cane. "You arrived just in time. The other board members were just asking me about your sudden whirlwind romance." A sharp-looking woman in her 50s, with silver hair and a look of cold skepticism, stepped forward. "Yes, Julian, it's quite unlike you. We all expected you to marry an heiress, not your own employee. It feels rather convenient given the timing of our merger vote." Clara felt her heart drop. She looked at Julian, but his smile remained flawless. "True love rarely follows a corporate timeline, Evelyn," Julian replied smoothly, tightening his grip on Clara's waist. "I spent 2 years looking for the perfect business partner, only to realize the perfect life partner was sitting right outside my office door. Clara brings a balance to my life that no heiress ever could." Evelyn turned her sharp gaze to Clara. "And you, Miss Montgomery? What was it that drew you to a man known for being utterly ruthless?" "Julian is ruthless in business because he protects what he cares about, Evelyn," Clara said, her voice steady and sincere. "But behind closed doors, he is a man of his word. He is fiercely loyal, and he takes care of the people he loves. That's the side of him the media never sees, but it's the side I fell for." Julian looked down at her, a flash of genuine surprise crossing his gray eyes. For a second, the mask slipped, and he just stared at her, his grip softening. Arthur Stirling laughed, breaking the tension. "Ha! Well said, young lady. A loyal man is a rare find. Come, let's show you to your quarters. Tonight is a formal dinner, and tomorrow we have the traditional charity hunt. We will have plenty of time to see if you two are truly in sync." An hour later, a maid showed them to their assigned room. Clara walked in and immediately froze. The room was spectacular, featuring a massive 4-poster bed, a roaring fireplace, and medieval tapestries. But there was only one room, and only one bed. No connecting dressing rooms, no separate couch. The maid bowed and left, closing the heavy door behind her. Clara turned around, her face pale. "Julian, there's only one bed." Julian closed his eyes for a brief moment, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Stirling is cleverer than I thought. He's checking if we actually sleep together. If we asked for separate rooms, the merger would be dead by dinner time. I can't sleep in the same bed as you, Clara hissed, keeping her voice low. That was my only condition, Julian. Strictly business. Julian walked over to her, his shadow enveloping her. This is business, Clara. If I lose this merger, my company's stock plunges. If my company plunges, the funding for your mother's clinic in Switzerland stops. Do you want to take that risk over a mattress? Clara gasped, hurt by his harsh words. He was using her mother against her again. You are a monster, she whispered, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Julian's expression hardened, but a flicker of regret crossed his eyes. I am a man doing what is necessary to survive. I will take the left side of the bed. You take the right. We won't touch. Tomorrow evening, we get through the dinner, and this farce is halfway over. Dinner that night was a psychological battlefield. Evelyn and 2 other board members sat across from them, asking highly personal questions about their relationship, how they met, their first date, their future plans. Julian and Clara answered perfectly, spinning a web of beautiful lies, their hands intertwined under the table to maintain the illusion. By the time they returned to their room at midnight, Clara was mentally exhausted. She changed into her modest, long-sleeved silk pajamas in the bathroom. When she walked out, Julian was already in bed, propped up against the pillows, wearing a dark gray t-shirt that showed his muscular arms. Clara hesitantly climbed onto the right side of the mattress, pulling the heavy duvet up to her chin. She lay stiff as a board, staring at the ceiling, acutely aware of the powerful man lying just inches away from her. An hour passed. The fire in the hearth had died down to embers, casting long, dancing shadows across the room. The wind howled outside the castle walls. Clara couldn't sleep. Her mind was racing. Suddenly, she heard a soft groan from the left side of the bed. She turned her head slightly. Julian was tossed to his side, his brow furrowed, his breathing shallow and ragged. His fingers were gripping the sheets tightly. No, Julian muttered, his voice strained and thick with pain. Don't let go. He was having a nightmare. The ruthless, invincible billionaire looked fragile, caught in the grip of a past memory. Clara hesitated. Her mind told her to ignore it, but her heart couldn't. She slowly moved closer, reaching out a hand. Julian? She whispered. Julian, wake up. The moment her fingers touched his shoulder, Julian's eyes snapped open. In a flash of terrifying, superhuman speed, he grabbed her wrist, flipped her over, and pinned her down against the mattress, his heavy body hovering over hers. His gray eyes were wild, blown wide with adrenaline and fear. He was breathing heavily, his chest pressing against hers. Clara stared up at him, her heart hammering violently, trapped beneath his weight. Julian blinked, the fog of the nightmare slowly clearing as he realized where he was and who he was holding. He looked down at Clara, his gaze dropping to her lips, then back to her terrified eyes. The silence between them became deafening, charged with a sudden, suffocating heat that had nothing to do with the nightmare. Clara, Julian breathed, his voice raw, his face just inches from hers.